I distinctly remember in college, and I say distinctly meaning like, I remember where I was standing in my house. I remember where the dude was that I was talking to. My house, we had a courtyard, so I was kind of outside, and it was a two-story house, and so he's up on the second floor and kind of out a window yelling down to me. And as he's yelling to me to get my attention, I just screamed back at him, "Hey, don't judge me, bro." And then I walked away. That's what I said. Here's why I said it. The day before, my fraternity rented a school bus, one of the big yellow first student buses, and bought about 40 cases of beer. And we rode that school bus all the way to St. Louis for a Cards game and drank that beer all the way there and back. And I say we because I was very much a part of the drinking of the beer. The thing is, I didn't really drink in college. It wasn't like a huge part of my story. That was actually more of my story in high school, maybe different story for a different day. But the context is, I'm gonna be honest, my girlfriend had broken up with me and I was really sad. And so perfect timing, I don't know if you would say that, but that's what it was. I was on a bus with a bunch of beer and a lot of my friends and I was sad, and so I drank. And I drank. And I drank. And here's the thing, I knew what I was doing was wrong. Like, you ever in a situation where, like, you just know the thing that you're doing isn't right or that you shouldn't be doing? I wasn't 21, I was drinking way too much, so it wasn't right in any way. Like, it wasn't, I knew it. I knew as I was doing it that it wasn't right. And even more than that, I didn't even really enjoy it. Like, I was doing the thing and I was putting on the smile and I was saying the ridiculous songs and all the stuff that goes into, a beer bus ride to and from St. Louis. But to be candid, I didn't really enjoy it, but I was doing it. I did it anyway. You ever do anything like that? Maybe not a bus ride to and from St. Louis, but like something man, this isn't right. I don't really enjoy this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And here's the thing, I at the time was kind of a professing Christian. I shouldn't say kind of, I was a professing Christian. I came into college and joined a fraternity, and that was part of what I said. I said, look, I want to be a different kind of fraternity guy. I want to be a kind of fraternity guy that follows Jesus in college. And so I was a part of a Bible study, and I helped lead a Bible study, and I had Christian friends in the house, and guys kind of looked up to me as a Christian, but I wasn't really living that out. And as you can imagine, when some of those guys that caught wind of what I had done, they not only had some questions because they were confused, some of them were actually kind of disappointed. And rightfully so, right? Because I professed to follow Jesus and do the right thing and live the right way. And here I was doing the thing that everyone else was doing. And one of those guys that was most disappointed maybe in me was actually a good friend of mine. He also was a Christian. And I just knew when I got back I was going to have to talk to him. I just knew it. Like, I knew that he was gonna find out, and I knew that we were gonna have to talk. And so what I did the next day is I avoided him. I knew where he was, and so I'd go to a different part of the house, or I knew where he was hanging out, and so I'd go somewhere. And I just avoided him all day until he was the guy up in the window that spotted me down in the courtyard, and he just yelled out the window. And it wasn't mean, it wasn't rude, he wasn't angry. He just said, "Hey, Kyle, hey, can we talk sometime?" And I don't judge me, bro. Like, don't judge me. Now, why did I do that? Why did I say that to him in that moment? A lot of reasons, right? Like, we could go back and psychoanalyze it and talk a lot about it, but I think I did it for a few reasons. I didn't want accountability, I wanted autonomy. I didn't want accountability, I wanted autonomy. I knew, at least I thought I knew what he was going to say to me. I didn't want that accountability. I wanted autonomy. I wanted the freedom to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. I didn't want truth, I wanted control. I wanted control over my own life. I don't want you to tell me how to live. I don't want you to tell me what to do. And so I just yelled back ridiculously, "Don't judge me," and walked away from him. You ever had that feeling? You ever said that out loud? Like, I get we kind of all say that as a joke, but the real sincere, like, don't judge me. Like, maybe you haven't said it, but certainly you felt it, right? Like, you've been there. You know what that's like. And if you're saying no right now, I don't believe you. Which is not to throw shade on you, it's just to name what I think is our moment, right? In this moment, by the way, in our culture, it's been going on for a really long time. We don't like being told how to live our lives. We don't like being told how to live our lives, and so we do and we say and we think things like, don't judge me, or you do you, or live your truth, or who are you to say, ... how I should live, what I should do, what I should think, what I should believe. Who are you to tell me how to live my life? Now, to be fair, I think that there's like an okay instinct in that, right? Like there's an okay response there. Like there's a part of us that we know what it's like. We know what it's like to experience kind of this harsh, hypocritical kind of judgment, right? Like, and nobody, by the way, nobody likes feeling shame. Nobody likes being embarrassed. Nobody likes being misrepresented. And so there's an urge in us that in those settings, we're like, man, don't tell me how to live. Like, no. And I think there's something, if not right, it's at least understandable. But I also think that there's something wrong about that instinct. Because I think what we've done is we've turned this don't judge me, we've turned that phrase into this don't challenge me. So really when we say don't judge me, it's like, hey, don't challenge me. Well, all I want from you, if you're gonna say something, what I want from you is I want you to affirm me. I want you to tell me what I already want to hear, what I already know. We confuse being loving with never disagreeing. We confuse loving with never disagreeing. And here's the thing. What makes this all even more confusing is a lot of people say this is what the Bible teaches. A lot of people are convinced that phrase comes directly from the Bible, and maybe for good reason. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1, Jesus says, do not judge or you too will be judged. So there it is, yeah? Like Jesus is saying, don't judge. Now, I said that we confuse it. I said that we think this is what the Bible teaches because here's the thing. This might be, maybe there's a stat out there somewhere that says this is the most quoted. Certainly it's one of the most quoted Bible verses in everywhere. But it's also one of the most misquoted Bible verses. And the reason it's misquoted is because it doesn't mean what we think it means. Jesus is not saying what I think a lot of us think he's saying. Okay, so what is he saying? Well, it's a little easier to say what he's not saying before we get into what he is saying. What Jesus is not saying here in Matthew 7:1, he's not saying affirm everyone. Jesus is not saying ignore sin. He's not saying sin doesn't matter. He's not saying turn off your brain and never make a judgment call. No, of course he's not saying that. Oh, how do I know that? Well, because Jesus himself assumes actually that you and I are people who are all the time making judgments. So here's what I mean. John 7:24, good. Jesus is talking to a crowd of people and this is what he says to them. He says, stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly. Stop judging by mere appearance. So he's talking to a crowd of people. He's saying, look. You guys, here's the thing. You're judging incorrectly. You're judging by appearances. You need to start judging correctly. Now, he doesn't define correctly in this verse, but the point is that there's a right way and there's a wrong way to judge. There's a right way, according to Jesus, and a wrong way to judge. So Jesus is not against judgment altogether. He's just against a certain kind of judgment. Or we might say judgmentalism or being judgmental. See, there's a difference. Think with me for a second. There's a difference between being discerning and being judgmental. There's a difference between what is right, what is wrong, what is wise, what is unwise, and being judgmental or judgmentalism. Discernment, it looks at a thing and it says, okay, this is right or this is wrong. This is wise, this is unwise. Judgmentalism, though, it says, I'm right and I'm also better than you. See the difference? One says, okay, this is right, this is wrong, wise, unwise. Judgmentalism says, no, I'm right and I'm better than you. Discernment evaluates actions, and judgmentalism, what it does is kind of at the root is it condemns people. When we're judgmental towards people, we condemn them. That's why James, Jesus' half-brother, this is why he says this, James 4:11. He says, brothers and sisters, don't slander one another. Don't slander one another. Anyone who speaks against a brother or sister or judges them speaks against the law and judges it. When you judge the law, you're not keeping it, but you're sitting in judgment on it. There's a lot there, but the reason I highlighted don't slander one another, because that's what James is trying to say is happening when we're judgmental towards each other. When we kind of embrace this ethos of judgmentalism. He's saying when we're judgmental towards each other, what we're really doing is we're slandering each other. A different translation says we speak evil against one another. So judgmentalism, being judgmental is talking poorly about, it's speaking evil, it's slandering. And Jesus is saying, or James and Jesus, I guess, are saying, don't do that. Don't speak against. Don't tear down your brother and sister. Don't presume that you're better than. Don't put yourself above other people, because that's what it means to be judgmental. And so when Jesus is saying to us, back then to them and to us right now, when he's saying don't judge, he's not forbidding our evaluation, he's forbidding our condemnation. He's confronting a heart posture that assumes superiority over other people. See what he's doing? He's confronting us in this heart posture that sometimes we have that says, I'm better than you. I know more than you. I'm right. You're wrong. I'm better. You ever do that? You ever presume that you're better than other people? Think that you're better than others? Yeah, me either. No, just kidding, right? Like, yeah, I do it. And I think we all do it. But here's why this matters. So right after Jesus tells us, don't judge or you'll be judged, he goes on, verse 2, Matthew 7. For in the same way, so right after he says, hey, don't judge, for in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Don't judge. For in the same way that you judge other people, they're going to judge you. Think about that. Think about what Jesus is saying here. He's saying, look, the standard that we use, and this kind of makes sense, right? The standard that we use on other people, well, as it turns out, that's what they do with us. Why would we be surprised by that, right? The standard I use for other people is what I should expect other people to use on me. That's the standard that I have to live under. If that's the standard I put on other people, then I should expect the same. And so how does that work then? How does it feel? Think about this. How does it feel if we're harsh with people? And because we're harsh with people, they're harsh back to us. How does it feel if you're quick to assume the worst when people do that to you? How does it feel when people aren't very forgiving, or people are really unkind, or people aren't very gracious with you? Maybe we're doing it to them. What happens if we leave no room for grace in people's lives? Well, according to Jesus, they're going to do the same to us. And what happens when the tables get turned, right? When the thing gets flipped, when it comes back to, like, none of us want that, do we? No, of course not. Nobody likes that feeling. And Jesus is trying to be honest, right? This is what happens when we're judgmental towards other people. We invite the same kind of harsh criticism, the same kind of nitpicky, the same kind of, we invite it for people to do with us. See, what Jesus is saying is, look, guys, we are not the judge. Nick was talking about this earlier. He's the judge. God's the judge, and it turns out he's not asking for our help. But that's where it gets a bit ironic, right? That's where it gets a bit ironic, because as much as we don't like to be judged, don't tell me how to live my life. Just let me do what I want. You don't know. Don't, as much as we don't want people to tell us how to live, man, we really, really, really like to tell other people what to do, don't we? Man, don't tell me how to live my life, but I'm really happy to tell you how to live yours. That kind of feels good. And here's the thing, Jesus knows that. Jesus knows that. He knows that inclination in our hearts. He knows the sickness, I'm gonna say sickness that we all experience, this, man, I don't want you to tell me how to live, but I'm gonna tell you how to live. Jesus knows that, which is why he goes on and gives us this ridiculous illustration. You've probably heard it before, but this is what he says. He says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye. Then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. My son the other day was being particularly feisty. That's how we'll say it. He's 10, so, it happens. And, man, my wife and I were letting him know, hey, this is not okay. This is what you're doing is not okay. And we were also letting him know that it needed to change. His attitude in particular needed to change. And my son, I suppose you could say, didn't like that. Turns out he didn't like mom and dad telling him how to live his life. And so in that moment, what he thought would be a better idea, as mom at this point is talking directly to him, what he thought in that moment would be better than listening, having humility, responding, he thought it would just be better to walk away from her. Pro tip, not good idea, not just, life tip, right? Not good to walk away from mom when mom's talking to you and this is not a good situation, but that's what he did. And a few words were exchanged, but eventually it gets to the point where my wife, she says, some version of, hey, when I'm talking to you, you don't walk away from me, right? You kind of all know the mom voice, right? That's what's happening. When I talk to you, you don't walk away from me. And I kid you not, guys, I kid you not. Before she could finish the sentence, or maybe like as soon as the period hits on the sentence, he quips back and he goes, Dad does it to you all the time. I need Jesus as much as you guys do. I wish I could have seen my face, because I'm sure it was a nightmare. I crumpled into a corner in both terror and laughter. I'm sure I was bright red. But here's the thing, he was exactly right. He was exactly right. I had to talk to my wife about it later. He was right. But it was so easy. What he said was not good, right? But it was true. But here's the thing. I was more concerned with what he was doing than my own actions. I was more concerned with him than I was with me. And I share that story both to let you know that I need Jesus too, but also because I think it's true. It's so easy to do this, isn't it? Like, if we're honest, it's really, really easy to do that in all parts of our lives, all sorts of different ways, right? Like, think about it for a second. Think about how easy it is to see the mistakes in other people. Think about how easy it is to see other people's flaws, to see other people's sins, the things that other people do poorly or wrongly, or and just kind of nitpick their lives. And it's so easy just to look out and say, yeah, you're the problem. The speck seems huge. All the while Jesus is saying that we got a massive plank in our eye. I think we all do that. I think it's just, I don't know if it's human nature or whatever it is, but there's a part of us that is just so inclined to see the mess out there before I see the mess in here. And Jesus knows that. He said, you're so fixated on the specks, and you got this plank coming out of your face. C.S. Lewis, one of the first books I read after I became a Christian in high school, Mere Christianity, he says this, something I think about quite often. He said, a proud man is always looking down on things and people. And of course, as long as you're looking down, You can't see something that's above you. A proud man is always looking down on other people. A proud man, a proud woman, a proud person is always looking down on other things and other people. And when you're looking down, you can't see what's up. And I think about that because it's so true. That it's hard, just to apply this to me, it's hard to see myself clearly when I'm so fixated on looking down on other people. When I get so concerned with other people, with you, with other people, it's hard to see myself. When I'm constantly pointing out the problem in others, it gets really difficult to deal with me in here. And what Jesus is calling us to, he's calling us to a better way. He's saying, look, no. It's not, don't start with judgmentalism. Don't start with the speck. Start with self-reflection. Right? You've got a plank in your eye. Start there. Deal with the plank. We all have the plank, right? You have the plank. I have the plank. Jesus is not surprised by the plank. The point is not like some of us have planks and some of us don't. Some of us have specks. Some of us have planks. No, Jesus is saying, look, we're all a mess. You're a mess. I'm a mess. That's what sin does to us. It breaks us down. It breaks our relationships. It breaks our bodies. It breaks the world. Sin makes us a mess. But the question is, and I think this is what Jesus is pushing us to, the question is are we willing to see that? Are we willing to deal, are you willing to deal with the messiness of your life? And by messiness, I mean, are you willing to deal with the plank? Are you willing to deal with the sin? Are you willing to see yourself clearly? To be honest about that, to do something about it. See, I think that's what Jesus wants. Jesus wants us to start there with ourselves, to deal with our plank. Because he goes on, he says, look, when you actually take time to deal with the plank, here's what happens. You actually become helpful. When we're able to have an honest self-reflection, when I'm able to actually see myself clearly, when I'm able to deal with my own stuff, then and only then am I able to actually help someone else go through their thing. Because look, Jesus doesn't say ignore the speck. He just says start with the plank. Go back to the verse. You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly, and you'll be able to help the speck be removed from your brother's eye. So he wants us to remove the plank so we can see ourselves clearly, so then we can go and help our brother or sister. That's why he's calling us to do this. See, the goal, it's not silence. Jesus is not saying, don't ever say anything about the speck. The goal is not silence. The goal is humility, having humility both about ourselves and toward other people. And I think there's a lot of things that I could say about that, but one of the things I was thinking about today is part of having humility toward other people is recognizing something that I think is really easy to forget. And it's that we often don't know what's going on in people's lives. We don't know what people are going through. You probably came with some people tonight, or if you didn't, you met someone here, or at least you know someone here. But the rest of the people here, you probably don't know what's going on in their lives. I don't either. You don't know what they've been through. Even if someone you came with, you might not know the whole story. You don't know what they're going through, what they've been through, what they're about to go through. You don't know what they're carrying. We often don't know what it is that people are trying to figure out right now. And yet it's so easy for us to make a quick opinion, to make a quick judgment about that person, to label, right? Maybe even worse, write them off. It's so easy to do that. Here's the thing, we're all in process. I'm in process. I'm guessing you're in process. What if instead of kind of rushing into judgment, we became the kind of people who are willing to step into the process with other people, not from above them, but from beside them? Not to presume that we're better than them, but because we can actually offer help. It's not to condemn people, it's to help them. It's not to stand above people, it's to stand beside them. Two different postures, right? One above, one beside. Jesus actually puts both of those postures together in a story. We're gonna read it in a second, but let me set it up. He's talking to a group of people. And he says, hey, I have a story for you. And he goes on, he says this. This is Luke 18. 2 men went up to a temple to pray. One was a Pharisee. Pharisees were like religious leaders, kind of important religious people in his day. One was a Pharisee, the other was a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed. So this is a religious guy, right? He prayed, God, I thank you that I'm not like other people. I'm not like robbers. I'm not like evildoers. I'm not like adulterers, those bad people, or even this tax collector, this other guy that came. God, thank you that I'm not like that guy. Because I fast twice a week. I give 1/10 of all I get. But the tax collectors were bad dudes, yeah? I mean, bad guys. It doesn't make sense to us, but they were. And so the tax collector, he stands at a distance. He wouldn't even look up to heaven. But he beat his breast and he said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Have mercy on me, a sinner. And Jesus goes on, he says, I tell you that this man, rather than the other, he went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. See the different postures of the two guys? One looks at other people and he says, man, thank you that I'm not like them. The other guy stands over at a distance and he says, God, have mercy on me. I'm a sinner. One person compares, the other confesses. See, here's the thing, the difference wasn't who sinned more. Both of these guys are sinners. The difference wasn't who had worse sin. The difference is who was able to see themselves clearly and who wasn't. And I share that story because I want it to raise an uncomfortable question. And I think it's a question Jesus wants to confront us with. It's part of what he's telling or getting at with the plank and the speck and all that stuff. And the question is, do you see yourself clearly? Do you see yourself clearly? See, here's what this all means. Here's what I think this passage, there's a lot of things that I think this passage means, but here's what I want us to kind of end-ish thinking about. I want us to think about the fact that we all have a plank, right? We all have a plank. The point is, again, it's not that some have a speck and some have, no. We all have a plank. And here's the thing. If God treated us the way that plank deserves, if God treated us the way that we deserve to be treated because of that plank, none of us could stand before him. None of us, right? It's that bad, it's that sinful, it's that wrong, it's that ugly, it's that egregious to God, that if we had to stand before God, if God treated us the way that we deserve to be treated, we wouldn't stand a chance because of the planks in our eyes. And I know that's uncomfortable. We don't come here to hear that kind of message. That makes me feel I don't like it, but it's true. But here's what's also true. The good news of the gospel is that Jesus sees your plank way more clearly than you do. Jesus sees your plank. You might, although I think that's even a question, but you might be able to start identifying, here's one of the planks, here's one of the planks, here's a speck, here's a plank. You might know a little bit about those things in your own life, but Jesus sees all of it. And we think it's bad. Jesus says it's terrible. But here's the thing. Jesus doesn't condemn you for it. He goes to the cross because of it. Jesus doesn't, he looks at your plank. He says, I see it. I see it. I see what you're doing. I see what you've done. I see what you want to do. I see what you're thinking about. I see all of it. And that deserves condemnation. But instead, Jesus goes to the cross. See, Jesus doesn't ignore our sin. He absorbs our punishment. The only one, think about it like this, the only one who deserves, or the only one with the right to judge us, instead takes on judgment himself. That's what Jesus does. The only person with the right to actually judge you chose instead to be judged himself on your behalf. And so here's a question to leave thinking about tonight. What would change about your life if you really believed that? Maybe you've heard that. Maybe that's not new, but let's think about it. What would change about my life if I really absorbed that, if I really believed deeply, not just intellectually, yeah, great, but really started to believe that? What would change about your life, my life, our lives, if we really believed that, hey, Jesus could judge us, but instead he chose to be judged himself? What would change? I think it would change a lot of things. If we had more time, we could talk about all those things. But one thing that I think it certainly would change is it would change how we see people. I think if we really were able to see that that was true, that Jesus could judge us, but instead took on judgment himself, it would change how we see people. We'd be less harsh. We'd feel less superior. We'd feel more patient, more compassionate, more forgiving, more kind, more gracious, more loving. Not people who judge, but people who speak the truth in love. People full of grace and truth. See, it's both of those things, right? Jesus is not saying ignore the speck, but he's saying, are we able to address ourselves first and then go to people? Not out of judgmentalism, but out of grace. But out of love and kindness and mercy. Because that's what we've received ourselves. See, my hope, my prayer, both for me as I've been thinking about this, reflecting on this, and certainly for you guys as well, is that we would increasingly move from being people who are, don't judge me, bro, kind of people. Don't tell me how to live my life. Move from that kind of posture to a posture that says, God, have mercy. Have mercy on me. Because I'm a sinner. And I got a plank. And I need your help. Because here's the thing. When we do that and when he does, then lasting change really starts to happen in our lives. Let me just pray that would be true of us, true of me, true of you, true of us. Heavenly Father, I'll be the first to confess that I'm way too judgmental. I'm way too harsh. I'm way too critical. I'm way too pointed with my words toward other people. I stand at a distance and assume superiority. I look down on other people. I think more highly of myself, all the things. Oh God, would you forgive me? Help me to see the plank and to want to deal with it. Not ignore it, not shove it down, not pretend it doesn't exist, but help me to see it so I see myself more clearly. And then help me to be helpful to other people, not from above, but from beside. Knowing that I'm someone who's received grace, I'm someone who's received mercy, knowing I'm someone who should be judged, who deserves a penalty, who deserves death even. And you stepped in my place. That's good news. And it changes lives. And so I pray that would be true of all of us here tonight. That we would leave this place different because of you. It's in your name we pray.